I never expected that moving into a new neighborhood at the age of 35, married for 10 years, would turn my life upside down. The house was charming, tucked into a quiet street with blooming gardens and white picket fences. A fresh start, my husband insisted. I unpacked boxes while he went back and forth to the office, promising to help later. It was the third evening when I saw him for the first time. He was trimming the rose bushes next door, a tall man, late 20s, with a casual charm that made him seem like he stepped out of a magazine. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and a smile that seemed effortless yet dangerous. He caught my gaze, and I felt a sudden jolt, like electricity, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. "Hi," he said casually, tucking a strand of hair behind his ear. "You just moved in?" "Yes," I replied, trying to sound normal. "Just unpacking." My voice sounded higher than usual. "I'm Alex," he said, extending a hand. "If you ever need anything, tools, a cup of sugar, don't hesitate to ask." I smiled, shaking his hand, but my mind betrayed me. His touch lingered for a heartbeat longer than necessary. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every memory of our brief encounter played over and over. I knew it was wrong to feel this way. I was married, but the excitement made my pulse race. Over the next few days, Alex appeared more frequently. Sometimes, it was just a wave from the window. Other times, he'd come over under the pretense of borrowing a hammer or offering to help with some gardening. Each interaction left me with a strange warmth in my chest, and I could feel my marriage's comfort fading into the background. One evening, my husband was late again. The silence of the empty house pressed down on me, and I found myself stepping into the backyard to water the plants. Alex was there, fixing a fence that wobbled slightly. "Need a hand?" he asked with that devilish grin. I think I've got it," I stammered. But I didn't want him to leave. He walked closer, casually brushing a strand of hair from my face, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. My stomach fluttered, and I knew this attraction was no longer innocent. We began to spend more time together, coffee under the sun, small talk that turned into deep conversation. He knew how to make me laugh, make me feel seen, and every glance, every touch, carried an unspoken tension. I wanted to resist, but resisting felt impossible. That was when the first spark of danger ignited. One rainy evening, my husband called saying he would be home late. I tried to focus on unpacking, but the sound of the rain, the empty house, and Alex's unexpected knock at the door created a storm in my heart. "Hey, thought you might like some company," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. The air felt electric, heavy with anticipation. I knew I should tell him to leave, but I didn't. We sat close on the couch, talking, laughing, sharing secrets we shouldn't. His hand brushed mine once, twice, and the world around me disappeared. That night, I realized there was no going back. Over the next few weeks, Alex and I grew closer in ways that were impossible to ignore. At first, our encounters were casual. Coffee on the porch, shared gardening tips, laughter echoing through the quiet neighborhood. But the tension between us thickened like summer humidity, and I could feel the line between friendship and something far more dangerous beginning to blur. It started with small, intimate touches. A lingering hand on the small of my back, a playful brush of fingers as we exchanged tools, the way he looked at me as if he could see through my carefully constructed life. I hated myself for the desire building inside me, but I couldn't stop it. My marriage felt like a distant memory compared to the excitement he stirred in me. One evening, after my husband had traveled for a business trip, I found myself on Alex's porch. The sky was painted in shades of pink and orange, and the air smelled like freshly cut grass. We sat side by side, talking about our childhoods, dreams, and regrets. The conversation drifted, naturally, toward the subject of loneliness and longing. "You seem different," he said softly, brushing a stray hair from my face. His hand lingered a moment too long, and my heart thudded in my chest. "I've felt restless," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I never thought moving here would feel like this." Alex leaned closer, and in that instant, all caution dissolved. Our lips met in a fleeting, electric kiss that left me trembling. It was forbidden, reckless, but undeniably intoxicating. My mind screamed for me to stop, to think of my husband, but my body betrayed me completely. From that moment, we couldn't resist. Days turned into nights of secret meetings, stolen glances across fences, messages that made my heart race, and touches that left me aching for more. Each encounter brought a mix of guilt and ecstasy, a twisted thrill of being caught, a delicious rebellion against the life I had promised to uphold. One night, I found myself alone in my backyard when Alex appeared from the shadows. Rain had started to fall again, and we didn't speak immediately. The silence was heavy with desire. He reached for me, and I leaned into him, letting the storm and the thrill carry us. Clothes became a distant memory as we surrendered to the passion that had been building for weeks. Afterward, lying in his arms, I felt a mix of euphoria and horror. I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross, and yet I couldn't deny the pull that drew me to him. The danger, the secrecy, it all made the affair more irresistible. We were careful, always hidden, always cautious. I told myself it was a fleeting escape, a brief adventure in a world that had grown dull with routine. But deep down, I knew this was no mere fling. It was obsession, desire, and betrayal rolled into one. Every encounter left me breathless, craving more and simultaneously terrified. The guilt of my marriage weighed on me, yet the thrill of Alex's presence was intoxicating. I couldn't stop thinking about him. The way his eyes lingered, the brush of his fingers, the sound of his voice whispering my name. Then came the night that changed everything. Alex invited me over under the guise of helping him with a minor repair. The air inside his home was warm, scented with candles, and heavy with anticipation. As soon as the door closed behind me, I knew this time would be different. We didn't wait for conversation. His lips found mine, and his hands traced every curve as if memorizing me. Every touch, every sigh, every gasp pulled me deeper into a world where nothing else mattered. The boundaries of morality blurred with every passing second, leaving only the raw, consuming fire of desire. By the end of that night, I knew there was no going back. I had fully crossed into a dangerous territory, one where passion, guilt, and betrayal collided. My life was no longer just my own, and I realized that the more I surrendered to Alex, the further I was stepping away from my marriage and everything I once thought untouchable. For weeks, the affair with Alex consumed me. Every day felt like walking on a tightrope. One wrong move could shatter everything. My heart raced every time I heard my husband's car pull into the driveway. Every secret glance, every hidden message, every stolen touch felt like both a thrill and a knife twisting in my conscience. One evening, my husband returned home early from a business trip. I had been texting Alex, and panic gripped me as soon as I saw him at the door. I forced a calm smile, my heart hammering, and tried to act natural. "Hey, you're home early," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yes," he replied, setting his briefcase down. "Thought I'd surprise you." His smile was warm, innocent. My guilt pressed down on me like a weight I couldn't shake. Later that night, unable to resist, I slipped out to see Alex. The rain poured down as I crossed the street, but my need for him outweighed any fear. When I reached his house, he opened the door, and we embraced immediately. Our kisses were urgent, desperate, a release of everything we had been holding back. But fate has a way of catching up. Just as we collapsed onto the couch, there was a sound, a key turning in the lock. My stomach dropped. My husband stood in the doorway, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, staring at us. For a moment, time froze. The guilt, the desire, the betrayal all collided in one unbearable instant. Alex pulled away, panic flashing in his eyes, while I stood frozen, unable to explain, unable to speak. What is this?" my husband finally said, his voice low and trembling. The hurt in his eyes pierced me more sharply than any words could. I wanted to explain, to apologize, to somehow undo what had been done, but the truth was a storm too wild to contain. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, I'm so sorry. The confrontation was raw, painful, and unavoidable. My husband left that night, and I stayed behind with Alex, but the passion that had consumed me moments ago felt hollow and bitter. I realized that desire without consequence was dangerous, and betrayal, once done, cannot be undone. In the days that followed, my life unraveled. Conversations with my husband were tense and distant. Friends noticed my distraction. The neighborhood I once found charming now felt suffocating. Alex became a source of both comfort and torment, a constant reminder of the choices I had made. Eventually, I had to make a decision. I loved my husband, flawed and human as our marriage had become. I also craved the intensity Alex had awakened, but I knew I couldn't have both without destroying everything. The affair had been a mirror showing me what I lacked in my life, and what I risked losing forever. One rainy afternoon, I met Alex at our usual spot in the backyard. His eyes searched mine, full of longing and unspoken questions. I took a deep breath, feeling the ache of goodbye. We can't continue," I said softly. "I can't keep living like this. I've crossed a line I can't uncross, and I have to fix what I've broken." He nodded silently, understanding but heartbroken. "I know," he said. "I'll always remember this, but maybe it's for the best." Walking back to my house, drenched from the rain, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. My marriage would never be the same, but there was still a chance to rebuild, to rediscover trust, to find the love that had been buried under years of routine and neglect. The affair had been intoxicating, thrilling, and devastating, but it had also awakened me to truths about myself, my desires, and the fragility of human connection. I had learned, painfully, that temptation can be irresistible, but the consequences of betrayal are heavier than passion ever could be. As I stepped through my front door, my husband waited, cautious but willing. I took his hand, trembling, and whispered, "I'm sorry." He squeezed my hand gently. "We'll figure this out together." And in that moment, I understood that forgiveness was possible, love could endure, and while temptation might visit again, choices and their consequences define who we truly are.